Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and as you know, there's just stuff happening all over the country that we all want to know about. We saw some things that happened this week, but there's actually a legal case that you may not have heard of that's taking place out in Oklahoma. And to talk about this is my very good friend and respected colleague, Attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons out of Tulsa. How you doing today, Damario?
I'm doing great, Doc. Good to see you.
The pleasure's always mine, man. It's great to see you as well. Now, you and I were talking, and you told me about a case that you're working on that involves some bus drivers, and you were kind of concerned about, it's kind of how this thing was playing out. Tell me about that case.
Sure, man. I have the pleasure and honor to represent six African American bus drivers who worked a combined over 65 years for the transit system here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Last year, in November 2014, these drivers were accused of embezzling $40,000, and they were actually arrested. They were first they were terminated. They were arrested. They were extorted, and then they were jailed. And when I say extorted, they were told when they were arrested by the Tulsa Police Department that the transit system and the transit CEO informed Tulsa Police Department that they offered my clients, a deal that they pay $1,000 or $2,000, or one of them had to pay $30,000 within 1 hour cash money, and then they would not take them to jail. So three of the clients actually paid the money because they just didn't want to go to jail, and the other three clients did not have the funds to pay and refused to pay, and they were actually processed into the jail system and had to go through the complete criminal process. And we had two judges look at the issue and dismiss the case, one in March of 15, and one in April of 15, and said the case had no merit, and it doesn't have any merit. And we are excited to bring this case because it's one of the most egregious deprivations of civil rights that we've ever seen.
Mm, interesting. So let me ask you this. Explain to me. When people hear a word like embezzlement, the word embezzlement's a pretty heavy word.
Yes.
And so I imagine that would require like some explanation about kind of what happened there. And then I'm curious about first of all the nature of the embezzlement that they're accused of, but then also the nature of the extortion that's taking place, and how that extortion differs from, say, a fine, or, you know what I mean, something like that. So just for people who aren't quite sure how to see this, start with the beginning. Like, what were they accused of? I mean, were they accused of just
Great, great,
walking in and taking money, or how did they go?
absolutely great question. That's a fantastic question because that is how it was put out. All my clients were put in the news media. There was on all the television stations, all the radio stations, as costing $40,000 lost to Tulsa Transit. But in actuality, what they were accused of was printing an excessive amount of free passes. Now, let me make sure I'm clear about this. They were accused not not of stealing, not of selling, but of printing an excessive amount of free courtesy passes that the bus drivers were allowed to give away to customers. A program that had been going on for 6 years, and it was a customer relations program. So, in other words, it would be like if someone works at some corporation who has free pens. If you had Boyce Watkins pens, and one of your employees, you say, "Hey, give these pens out," and one of your employees gives out too many pens, and you say, "Hey, you gave out too many pens. I'm gonna convert that pen. Every pen you gave out, I'm gonna convert that to $1, and now you owe me $10,000." That was how they came up with this embezzlement. And that's why the judges looked at this deal and said, there's no embezzlement here. There was no monetary value lost to the Tulsa Transit. There was no monetary value associated with these free ride passes. There was no, as the media had made it seem like that these bus drivers had taken $30,000 or $40,000 of cash out of the coffers of the Tulsa Transit, which is that's what embezzlement is, right? You take cash that's not yours and you convert it to your own use. That did not occur here.
That's so interesting. I mean, when you hear about cases like this, it makes you it makes you think about all the times you went into the stock room and got some extra ink pens and pads you weren't supposed to. You know what I mean? I mean, when I mean the
But
interest. Oh, go ahead, please.
on that point, I want to make sure I reiterate, I'm clear that number one, because the case I've already gone through a criminal process, many of the documents we have are official police records. We have preliminary testimony, sworn testimony. So these are not just allegations that I'm making. These are These are facts based upon the official police records that we have. Also, we know for a fact that the Tulsa Transit did not have a written policy of how many passes you could print, period. So it was not as if my client knew, okay, you can only print 20 passes a day or 5 passes or 50 passes. There was no written policy. There was no training on how many passes could be printed out in a particular day. They simply made an arbitrary determination of my 6 African American clients and said, oh, you printed too many. Now, this is the kicker. We know based upon the documents that Tulsa Transit provided to the police that there were some drivers who were not African American who printed as much or more than some of my clients, and they were not disciplined, they were not fined, they were not arrested, they were not extorted, they were not jailed, and they were not prosecuted.
Mm. So this was confirmed. So you know for sure that these individuals who weren't black were printing more passes than the African American clients.
Yes, we have the evidence that shows that there are individuals who is printing as much, and in some cases more than some of my clients, and yet they were not in any way, far as we know, we certainly know they wasn't arrested. We certainly know they wasn't put in the paper. We certainly know they were not jailed. But I understand they were not even disciplined.
Wow, wow. Now
And
let's.
mind you, my clients, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think it's really clear, really a good point that your listeners understand that these were bus drivers who have been at the doing this. One of my clients have been doing over 25 years since 1989. My other client has been doing over 12 years. Miss Drew been doing over 9 years. Leroy King been doing over 8 years. John Smith was doing it almost 8 years, and then Lawrence Morgan was doing it over almost 5 years. These were dedicated, hardworking bus drivers that worked 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day.
Mm, wow, wow. That's really interesting. So okay. So now that we understand the nature of the accused accusation of embezzlement, tell me about this extortion piece. I mean, just so I can kind of see it clearly in terms of what the police did in all of this, and maybe you could break it in plain language in terms of what or why what the officers did might have been illegal or unethical or whatever the case may be.
What we look at, what we understand is that the CEO of Tulsa Transit, and again, I'm talking directly from police records. Based on the police records, we understand that the CEO of Tulsa Transit, who is a city executive, right? He's been there for a number of years, almost 12 years. He called one of the deputy chiefs of the Tulsa Police Department, who then called one of the supervisors or the supervisor over the crimes division, the financial crimes division. And so when they brought my clients in on Monday, November 24th of 2014, my clients had no idea why they were being called to the office. They called them in one by one. They confronted them with this allegation of theft. My clients obviously adamantly denied any wrongdoing. And then when they left the office where they were confronted, they marched them directly to the front of the Tulsa Transit where the police were waiting on them. The police handcuffed them. The police threw a cruiser and transported them downtown to the police headquarters like violent criminals. And then they put them in interrogation rooms. And then they interrogated them. And each time, each of my clients was told by the Tulsa Police Department that Tulsa Transit CEO William Cartwright advised Tulsa Police Department that if the client paid a certain amount of money within an hour, cash,
Hmm.
that they would not have to go to jail.
So why do you think the payment requested was in cash as opposed to something that would like a check or a credit card or something like that?
Boys, we don't know the answer to that. And it's baffling because I've talked to, for instance, one of my clients, John Smith, when he was being detained, his he had to call his mom and said, hey, I need you to bring $1,000, $1,008. His mom was like, what? And I'm talking to the mom. Mom's telling me. She said she couldn't believe it. And then as she's talking to her son, the Tulsa police detective t- gets the phone and gets on the phone with the mom and says, hey, going to jail for stealing and selling free passes on the street unless you can be here within an hour. The mom says, I, I can't get to the bank would draw $1,000, $1,008, and get back down to Tulsa Transit within an hour. Can I bring a check? They told her no.
Really?
One of my clients, Leroy King, he said, "Hey, I can pay with a credit card. I'm in between pay periods. I don't have $1,000 account." They said no, $1,000 cash, or you're going to jail. So he had to call his only person he could get that money from in that short amount of time was to call his elderly sick mom, who's now passed, and
Mm.
have his wife take off from work, go pick his mom up, take her to the bank, and then because they live 30 minutes away, literally speed against the clock to get to Tulsa to pay that cash so he didn't have to go to jail.
That doesn't sound right to me. That almost sounds that sounds like some corruption. I mean, I'm not accusing, but I mean, what about this is not corrupt? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. You want people to pay in cash within an hour. They can't pay with a credit card, can't write a check. That sounds crazy to me.
Well, we think it's crazy too, and especially in light of two things. Number one, remember, they didn't actually embezzle anything. They didn't actually steal any money. They didn't actually cost the company any money. All right. The company simply converted the amount of passes that they had printed off. Remember, they had a right to print the passes. Simply converted each pass that they printed and gave each pass a $3.50 value. So they were extorting them out of money that they never actually lost. Now, that is illegal. And this is why both judges, Tulsa County preliminary judge, a preliminary hearing judge, dismissed this case. And then the state appealed that
Mm.
dismissal. And the Tulsa County district judge, Sharon Holmes, not only did she dismiss the case, she stated in her, which I can send you a copy of the transcript, she stated that she was very, very disturbed at the way that the clients were treated because the police took the role of the district attorney's office, and she was not happy with that at all.
Mm. Interesting. Wow.
But but at this time, we believe that Tulsa Transit is the impetus behind all of this, right? We what we understand is that Tulsa Transit, the CEO, being a very powerful government official here in the city of Tulsa, was able to orchestrate all of this.
Mm. So it almost sounds. I mean, tell me. I'm not a legal expert, but it almost sounds based on what I'm hearing almost like the police were kind of like collection agents for this guy who runs the Tulsa okay, yeah, thank you. I mean that's what I'm hearing, and police aren't supposed to really do that, right? I mean, my dad was
Correct.
a cop for 25 years, so I respect good cops, but it doesn't sound like we're dealing with something on the up and up here.
Correct. And actually, that's exactly what we say. This was a shakedown,
Wow.
and Tulsa Transit utilized the police powers of Tulsa to extort our clients out of cash. And see, the great thing about one of the great things we have here in our legal system, which has a lot of issues, we know we both talk about that often, but we do have a constitution, and the Constitution requires that before the government can take your life, liberty, or property, there must be due process. And
Mm.
that's a Fourth Amendment right that we have, and that was not Fourth and 14th Amendment right that we have, and that did not occur here for my clients. And then they were maliciously prosecuted, which is in violation of Section 1983. Now remember, all of my clients are African American, and so we also have what's called a 1981 action, civil rights discrimination, because they were qualified for their job, they had been on their job, and they did not in any way deserve this treatment, and it was illegal. It's unconstitutional. And let me throw this in and let you know this. Based upon the fraudulent monetary value given to the passes, Tulsa Transit submitted an insurance claim and was paid $30,000 in cash, $30,000 from their insurance company because of the alleged theft that occurred by my clients. And
Mm.
then the insurance company turns around and sends and threatens my clients with that they're going to have to repay the money back. Now remember, there was never any cash actually taken from MTT Tulsa Transit, yet they submitted a claim.
Wow. Well, last question I'll ask you before I let you go, because I definitely am curious about this case because it sounds crazy. Um, what has the police department and Tulsa Transit said to kind of defend their behavior? I mean, it almost sounds like the fox is kind of becoming the hen, or whatever you know what I mean. Like they might have initially been the aggressors, but it sounds like they have to defend themselves and defend their behavior. What have they said to kind of explain all of this away?
Well, they haven't said anything at this point. We filed a case. We've been working on the case since we got the case in May. It started working on it, doing our investigation. We interviewed dozens of folks. We reviewed thousands of pages of documents, hundreds of pages of documents to prepare ourselves to get the case filed. We filed it on Friday, Thursday evening, Friday, and so federal court here in Tulsa, the U.S. Northern District of Oklahoma, and we have not had a response back from Tulsa Transit yet. And we are looking forward to see what they have to say. And I want to give you one other fact of how why this case is particularly egregious. They withheld my client's final paychecks for over 6 months.
Oh,
When they terminated them, and that's against the law. That's against, in fact, here in Oklahoma, that's a misdemeanor. That's a crime
oh,
to withhold someone's final paycheck illegally. And they did. When they fired my clients in November of 24. Now remember, this was a few days before Thanksgiving. Remember this.
oh, wow.
And this was doing and right before the Christmas holiday. They fired my clients, and then they withheld their final paychecks until May, around the May 11th of 2015. Plus, some of my clients have, to this day, as we speak, and have not been paid their sick leave and vacation time. One of my clients had over 450 hours of sick leave built up that he's not received, and that's over $10,000 right there, and that's due to him that he's not received over a year, almost
Mm,
a year.
wow. And it's so interesting because it would almost, people wouldn't necessarily understand why he would also seem to have the same rights that the company had to, even bit more rights to come after them for, for stealing from him. I mean, you've taken something of tremendous value from this man, and you haven't given that up. So I'd be curious to see how this develops, man. Let me know, keep me posted. I think it's, I think a lot of people can relate to this because a lot of us have seen that where that double standards applied, where everybody's taking paper clips in the office, but then as soon as you take a paper clip, then suddenly it becomes a problem. You know what I mean?
Right,
And it sounds like
right.
one of those situations. Well,
Well, it is, and I think the last thing I would like to say is that it's important that we understand that Black Lives Matter all around all spectrum. So it's not just when someone is brutalized and killed by the police or a security guard or anything like that. Our lives matter when we're at the workplace, when we're walking down the street, when we're at the grocery store, wherever it may be, and we must be vigilant and strong and very passionate advocates anytime we see this racial injustice that is inflicting the harm upon our people, because this not only impacted my six clients, but their families was financially ruined and devastated, and their reputations were destroyed. And some of them have not recovered to this day. I mean, and most
mm,
some of them are, in their late 50s, early 60s. It's very difficult for them to get a job that's paying them at the same level. Believe it or not, some of them, most of them were making over $50,000 a year. Two of my clients were making over $65,000 a year as bus
mm,
drivers, and they're not able to go out and find those type of jobs at their age, at this time in this economy for blue collar work. And so this really is a devastating impact on their families, but it's something that we must continue to fight against at every opportunity. And I'm blessed to have the opportunity to represent these people.
mm. Well, they're blessed to have you. Well, thank you very much for sharing the story, Damario. I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Absolute same here. All right, everybody. This is attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons, and I want you to follow this case. Go Google it. It's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, involving Tulsa Transit. Sounds like there's a lot yet to happen. And I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. And remember, Black Lives Matter and Black livelihoods matter. So when people lose their jobs unjustly, people are affected, and we want to fix that. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.